Dear friends, you're on the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. Several days ago, the President of the United States of America asked a very simple question: whether the Russians and the Ukrainians are ready to settle the conflict. And he promised that he would wait for an answer to this question until the 27th of November of 2025. And right after this question was asked, the president of Ukraine went to Europe, where he had meetings with Macron, where he spoke with Starmer, where he spoke with Friedrich Merz. And the most important, that Zelensky, during his trip through Europe, managed to get support. He managed to get the situation when Europeans and the NATO countries promised him that they would continue supporting Ukraine even if the United States of America will stop doing this, and even if the United States of America will stop sharing with intelligence information. And when Zelensky returned back to Ukraine, he was confident that Ukraine can continue the war with the Russian Federation and that Ukraine will get money, will get arms, will get weapons. And due to the fact that he has become confident, the Ukraine and the Ukrainians and Ukraine itself gave the answer to the President of the United States of America, to Donald Trump. The war will end when Ukraine returns Crimea. This statement was made by the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. So this is Stefanchuk. He is the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada of the Parliament of Ukraine. You know that this is a very important statement, and his statement is much more important and much more powerful than any statement of Zelensky. You know that the Russian Federation doesn't recognize Zelensky as a legal president of Ukraine. So they consider him, they think that he's nothing. So according to the Russian Federation, Zelensky is just a person. He's just a person who controls Ukraine, who holds the power in his hands without any rights for this. But according to the Russian understanding of the Ukrainian constitution, there is a person of Ukraine who can be considered as a legal power of Ukraine. And the Russians recognize this person, the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada Stefanchuk, as a legal leader, as a legal president of Ukraine, according once again to the Russian understanding of the constitution. So that is why his answer is much more powerful for the Russian Federation, because everything that he says can be recognized as a legal statement of Ukraine according to the Russian understanding. And if he says that the war will end when Ukraine returns Crimea, this means that this is going to be like this. So that is why the Russians realize that there is no need to wait. And that is why it's time to launch another massive missile attack across Ukraine. During the previous night between the 24th and the 25th of November of 2025, both the Russians and the Ukrainians attacked each other with hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles. This morning, pro-Ukrainian sources, for some reason, haven't published any map where we might see the approximate roads of Russian attacks. Maybe this map will be published by the evening of the 25th of November of 2025, and then we will discuss everything in details. But as for the current article, we see that Russians used almost 500 air vehicles, including drones and missiles. The Russians were attacking the city of Kiev, according to information we have. So this is the video that came from the city of Kiev, and here we can see a very heavy explosion somewhere in the central part of the city. This morning, the pro-Ukrainian sources published this photo, and as you can see, as a result of attack, most likely with missiles and drones, the Russians managed to destroy a very huge logistic hub on the territory of the city of Kiev. So something big was destroyed, as you can see. Furthermore, the Russians were using cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, drone missiles, and hypersonic missiles. Ukraine at the same time attacked the city of Novorossiysk and the city of Krasnodar. So Ukrainians were attacking the southern part of the Russian Federation. So, for example, in this video, we can see how a Ukrainian drone attacked a building. So very heavy explosion, as you can see. Furthermore, the Russians were attacking the territory of Ukraine from the area of the city of Novorossiysk using cruise missiles, Kalibr missiles. So most likely Ukrainians were trying to attack Russian ships, probably with the purpose not to allow them to launch caliber missiles across Ukraine. So this is the moment when Russians were launching missiles with the purpose to damage some objects of critical infrastructure through Ukraine. Furthermore, and another important video, very interesting video, was published from the city of Krasnodar. We haven't seen anything like this from the Russian side. We have seen videos of this type from Ukrainian side when using missiles and probably different types of guns. Ukrainians were trying to bring down Russian drones, but we haven't seen anything like this from the Russian side. And in this video, we can see how Russian air defense systems were trying to bring down Ukrainians' drones and Ukrainian missiles that were trying to hit targets across the southern part of the Russian Federation. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians attacked the Odessa region. As for this region, the sources are saying that Russians attacked a power plant. So as of now, it's very difficult to understand what exactly the Russians destroyed, but the sources are saying that 4 arrivals at the thermal power plant in the Peresyp district of Odessa. So some sources stated that 3 power plants were attacked by the Russian Federation during the previous night. So once again, and the main problem is that by the morning of the 25th of November, we haven't received almost anything when talking about different videos and pictures of consequences of attack. So Ukrainians are trying to hide the signs of the damage that the Russians managed to deal. The Russians, of course, are doing the same. So we received the answer. Ukraine most likely will continue the special military operation and the war with the Russian Federation until they returns Crimea, and we understand that this might happen not very soon. Furthermore, according to information we have, according to the French President Macron, France is going to send troops on the territory of Odessa if an agreement is signed between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. So if during the next 2-3 months Ukraine and the Russian Federation signs any agreement on the matter of the peaceful settlement of the conflict, France will send troops on the territory of Odessa or on the territory of the city of Kiev. So everybody understands that if they do this, then the war will begin once again, but from the beginning, but this time the Russians will be forced to face not just resistance from Ukrainian army, but also partial resistance from the European countries as well. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. And first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continued their offensive operation. I would like to remind you that just yesterday we got the report that the Russians managed to secure the settlement of Zatishye. This video was published by the Group of Forces East, and here we can see how exactly Russians were raising their flags across the settlement. And today we got report that the Russians, as you can see, managed to improve their position significantly in the eastern part of the city of Huliaipole, and several neutral mappers stated that Russians managed to capture these farms on the most eastern part of the city. So currently the distance between edge positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation and the city of Huliaipole is already 0 kilometers. The Russians entered the city of Huliaipole, and currently there are very heavy clashes for this settlement. And the Russians are saying that most likely Ukrainians will not be able to show any resistance, and most likely Ukrainians would be forced to fall back under the pressure of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. This is another video that was published from the Huliaipole direction, and here we can see how Russians were bombing the northeastern part of the city of Huliaipole, this part, with the purpose to ruin Ukrainian defense and most likely then to break through and to answer the city of Huliaipole from the north. So the clashes are underway. Most likely Ukrainians will not be able to hold the city for a very long period of time. Now let's talk about the city of Pokrovsk. During the previous 24 hours, we received additional changes and very interesting episodes worth our attention. As for the city of Mirnograd, the Russians continue tightening the news around the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. This is the situation by the end of the 24th of November, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 25th of November. As you can see, Russians improve their positions along the railways. The Russians are trying to cut the most southern part of of the Mirnograd cauldron. Furthermore, the Russians began advancing in the direction of the settlement of Svetle through the village of Rovne. So the news is tightening. The Ukrainians are getting probably closer and closer to the central part without any chances for further evacuation. At the same time, very interesting video we received from the most northwestern part of the city of Pokrovsk, and let's discuss this video in details. So this is the video from the most northwestern part, and here we can see how Ukrainian soldiers were entering the city of Pokrovsk. I'm not sure, and you know that as for now it's very difficult to understand whether we need to adjust the map or not. This video was published just today. Here we can see how Ukrainian soldiers were entering the city of Pokrovsk through its northwestern part. I would like to remind you that during the previous days, pro-Ukrainian sources reported that as a result of offensive operation, the Ukrainians managed to stabilize the situation along the city limits of the city of Pokrovsk, especially in its northern part, and now we see how Ukrainians are entering the northwestern part of the city. So as of now, we don't know for sure whether the video is a fresh one or this is an archived video, so that is why we are going to wait a bit. We're going to wait for additional clarifications, additional proofs, but if we find out that the video is fresh, then of course we will adjust the map and we will color everything back in Ukrainian favor, especially in the northwestern part of the city of Pokrovsk. As for the Shakhovo pocket, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians improved their positions in the area of the settlement of Zatishek. This is the situation by the end of the 24th, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 25th of November. Furthermore, the Russians continue advancing in the direction of the settlements of Sofiyevka and Toretskaya. During the previous night, as you can see, additional changes on the ground were recorded. Just yesterday, the Russians finished the battle for the settlement of Shakhovo, and now Russians begin the battle for Sofiyevka-Toretskaya. Ukrainians are trying to stabilize the situation by sending additional vehicles, additional reinforcements and reserves, but Russians destroy everything that enters the Shakhovo kill zone. Now let's talk about the Siversk direction and the Liman direction. During the previous 24 hours, during the previous 12 hours, we received huge changes on the ground. So this is the city of Siversk, and this is the situation by the end of the 24th of November. According to different sources, according to different mappers, military experts and geolocations, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly to the east of the city and in the northeastern part of the city itself. The Russians, as you can see, managed to capture this dense network of the fortifications to the city, to the east of the city, and Russians managed to enter the northeastern part of the settlement. We came to this conclusion based on this video that was published by the 54th Brigade of the Armored Forces of Ukraine, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking with FPV drones positions of the Armored Forces of the Russian Federation in the northeastern part of the settlement. So Ukrainians were attacking Russian positions exactly in this area. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that currently up to 30% of the city of Siversk is under complete control of the Armored Forces of the Russian Federation, and most likely in coming days the eastern part of the city will be captured by the Russians completely. Another very interesting update is coming from the city of Liman. Several neutral mappers stated that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to capture this stronghold and to answer the central part of the city of Liman. So these are the changes on the ground that were provided by different neutral mappers. As of now, of course, we are waiting for geolocations, but if this information is correct, then most likely the Ukrainians in coming days will start suffering huge problems and huge losses due to logistical issues with the city of Liman. And from this configuration, most likely Ukrainians will not be able to hold their positions for a very long period of time, but also from these positions we understand that most likely the Russians are trying to create the situation when Ukrainians will try to hold their positions just in this area. So this is the only position where Ukrainians will be able to have some foothold on the Russian side of the river of Siversk Donetsk. And that's it for today, for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.